Audio check 1 2 3. Is the mic working? Audio check 1 2 3. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Motive Racing YouTube channel. We are here for the 9th round of the GT4 Championship here on Assetto Corsa Competizione on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 platforms. We're here at a very sodden wet Brands Hatch for what should be a pretty exciting night of racing. We've been at Brands Hatch a few times in these GT4s now over the seasons. This obviously being season 3 of the GT4s. We've been here every season before. It was actually my first race in the GT4s on ACC full stop here at Brands Hatch a couple of seasons ago, and since then I've commentated on 3 races here, or was it 2? No, it's only 2. Because in terms of the GT4s, it's 2 races, because last season we had 2 tiers for the GT4s. We had the tier 2s and the tier 1s following on straight afterwards, but that was obviously then, and nowadays we've got just the 1 tier for the GT4s for the time being anyway, and we've got 14 drivers out on the track. A couple couldn't make it tonight, including Freeman, the league coordinator. One of the big challenges to the reigning champion Cheese Monkey in the championship. Freeman unfortunately not here tonight, but Cheese Monkey will be looking to try and extend his gap in the point standings after taking a 17-point lead last week after his brilliant last lap move around the outside of turn 11 at Spa to take the win ahead of Freeman. So Freeman's now going to have it all to do in the remaining rounds of the season. Cheese Monkey will be looking to try and take a sizable lead in the championship if he can. If Cheese Monkey gets a bad round tonight, though, there'll be definitely one man who will be brought into the equation, and that will be Marty Road Racing, Freeman's Team Run DJC teammate, who's driving in his traditional 226 BMW. Highest BMW in this current order at the moment. Credeo is almost a second off. He's currently sat in 8th place. The other BMW of SMT Morphe is currently sat in 13th spot. Still at set a lap time at the moment. Him and Wins are the only drivers not to set lap times so far in this session. But Xander Flander currently heading up the field here, doing a brilliant job in the Ginetta. The Ginetta is a bit, it's alright in the wet. It's not the best, but it's quite a light car, but it seems like Xander Flander's getting the best out of it at the moment. Leads the leaderboard by 12 thousandths of a second, so it's very, very close at the top of this leaderboard, to say the least. But he leads Codalunga by 12 thousandths, so we said John Jig not too far off, only a 10th behind in 3rd place. We know that John Jig's a bit of a rain master. We saw him at Suzuka taking the pole position earlier this season, but unfortunately for him it all went wrong on the first lap. He dropped down the order with a first lap spin, so he'll be looking to try and get himself maybe up ahead of Xander Flander and Codalunga onto pole if he can. We know that he's quick, as we say, in treacherous conditions. We've got Cheese Monkey sat in 4th, only 2 tenths off, 2 tenths covering the top 4. It's so close at the top of this leaderboard right now. You've got Pete Bibb in the pits. He's not going to improve from there. It'll be interesting to see if he manages to get out to do it on the lap before the end of this session. You've got Marty Rowe racing in P6. He's coming in towards the final corner. Let's watch Marty here as he's getting onto the power. Looks like he's pretty clean through this part of the track. As we said before, it's a big opportunity for Marty to bring himself a little bit closer to Cheese Monkey and Freeman in the points. Comes over the line, can't improve at the moment. Pete Bibb and Duke Martin, the only drivers in the pits at the moment. You've got Credeo in 8th, Snooky running in 9th. He's coming up towards the line. What can Snooky do here as he crosses over right about now and doesn't improve at the moment? Stays in 9th place. You've got King Quinn in 10th, Lazy Camel in 11th place with Nilsson 12th. Windsor has done a time good enough for 13th place, and SMT Morphe still yet to set a lap time so far in this session. As we're watching Windsor actually coming through the final couple of corners. SMT Morphe, the only driver not to set a lap, and it looks like he's not going to set it at that rate, but hopefully he can get one in before we get to the end of this session. Got some comments coming on the YouTube stream, guys. Thank you very much for your comments. We've got Ratchy in the comments saying good luck, guys. Used to race with us here on ACC, did Ratchy. He's one of our reserves for the GT3s. It'd be good to have Ratchy back on the track again, as it's been a little while since we've seen him, so it'd be nice if he wants, if you ever want to, mate, feel free to jump in. You're always welcome out on the track. You're a clean racer, you're fair, you are more than welcome to jump in any of the races that we got going on here. We got Guitar Rich says, hey, I hope John has had it as his wellies on. Yeah, well, I think he's got wet tyres on, so that will definitely go some way to help to aiding him around this track here tonight in that Mercedes. But John Jig now down to P4 because Cheese Monkey has just blown him away a little bit there. Has done a time good enough for P1. He's gone almost 4 tenths clear of Xander Flander, as we're going to watch John Jig coming up through the final couple of corners. Guitar Rich will be hoping that John Jig can put a good time on the board here as he comes up towards the line. What is it going to be for John Jig? He goes up into P2 there, so that's a lovely lap from John Jig. Gets within a tenth of a second second of Cheese Monkey, showing once again his credentials. When the going gets tough, John Jig is the one who will get those wellies knee deep in some mud and really see some action. So he's currently doing the job at the moment, getting himself provisionally on the front row of the grid as he's stopping the car and coming into the pits by the looks of it. Marty Road Racing coming up towards Druids at the moment. He's sat in third place in this session, so a good showing so far from Marty. We've got Xanderflander fourth coming up towards the line. What can Xanderflander do here as he's just about to cross the line here to complete this lap? Track seems to be improving at the moment. Xanderflander goes up into P2, just under a tenth off of Cheese Monkey. So despite the rain continuing to fall, the track conditions are improving, which is quite a shock really, to be honest with you, when you look at the amount that the rain is falling. But they're shedding the water quicker than it's falling at this point, which is very important. Obviously these drivers need to be out on the track now. You really do need to be putting the laps in at this very moment in order to get the highest possible grid position that you can. So Cheese Monkey, Xanderflander, John Jig all missing a trick here because they're all improving at this stage in the session. So what they're doing in the pits I really don't know, but Guitar Rich says Englishman in the rain should be a good one. I would assume should be a good omen there. We've got JL at Sim Racing, obviously JL Regulator in the comments here. Team boss of Team Run DJC says let's go Team Run DJC Racing, or rather he put DCJ there, but I'm 100% sure that's a typo. It's Cotton Marty flying the flag. Good to see. Obviously Freeman not able to make it tonight. He's not feeling too well. He's a little bit under the weather. Is our GT4 lead coordinator, man currently running second in the championship, which as we said before is going to really hand the impetus to Cheese Monkey. But Marty's coming in towards the final corner of the lap, and we've seen the track improving over the course of this session as the spray is being shedded much quicker than it's actually falling, than the rain's falling. So Marty over the line doesn't improve on this particular lap. Maybe they've reached a point now where the rain is starting to fall a little bit too quickly for the track to dry up, and seeing as there's only 4 cars out on track now, that's definitely gonna it's definitely gonna be building up in places that it wasn't before. So Marty may have hit his ceiling in this session. We've got Codlingu in 5th, doing a decent job. Codlingu's always up there or thereabouts, but always seems to just fall a little bit short of the wins. I know he's had a couple of podiums here in these GT4s, but he seems to have the most rotten luck, does Codlingu. Things just do not seem to fall his way. He's always in there fighting. He's never too far away from the front runners, but just little niggles and bad luck just tend to get in his way. But he's coming in towards the final corner. He will get one more lap in after this for Codlingu, so we'll have to keep our eyes very much peeled on what he gets up to here as he's crossing over the line. What can Codlingu do here at the end of this lap? He doesn't improve on that particular run, and there's only 4 cars left out on the track. The spray will definitely not be dispersing off of the racing line as much as Codlingu and Marty would like it to. The Lazy Camel out there on the track as well, as he's just left the pits, so he's not going to get around in time to do a lap, I wouldn't think. Morphe there is coming into Druids. Don't know if he's on a lap, but we'll have to see as it goes on. We got yeehaw in the comments saying good luck everyone, this is going to be tricky. I think it is, to be fair. It's got to be the Lazy Camel, right? I don't know. I don't know who Yeehaw is, to be honest with you. Marty coming in towards the final corner. Let's see what he can do. Scuderia Paul says, evening race fans. Evening Scuderia Paul, one of our regulars in a GT3 league on a Sunday night here on ACC, has been in motive now for quite a little while, as we see Marty coming over the line, doesn't improve on that particular lap, stays in P4. Codlingu's coming through the middle sector. We've got Lazy Camel just in front of Morphe on the track, as Morphe in fact is just going a bit wide there onto the grass ever so slightly. Lazy Camel on his final run of the session, but this man Codlingu is going to be the next over the line here as he's coming in towards the final sector of the lap. He's currently in P5, just about half a tenth of a second off of the front 2 rows of the grid. Can he find a little bit of time here in the final part of this session, or is the track now just getting to the point where it's a little bit irretrievable? Auto Butcher in the comments, sorry mate, I missed you out completely there, says Cheese needs to challenge Channel Turkington in this race, bag the points, and no, I think what he's trying to say is do the consistent job in this one, but says that there's no silliness. Cheese Monkey should avoid any silliness in this race, as we see Codlingu coming over the line. Does improve his lap time, but not quite enough. Misses out on a second row start by 9 thousandths of a second, so that was extremely close there for Codlingu. Couldn't quite get it ahead of Marty there, so that's that then for the qualifying session. It's going to be Cheese Monkey lining up on pole position for this one in the Ginetta. The reigning champion, the championship leader, looking to try and make the most of his opportunity here. With Freeman not here tonight, he needs to really bag those points, and as Auto Butcher said here, no silliness, just needs to be consistent. If he gets involved in any dogfights with Xanderflander or John Jig, he really does need to be the bigger man in this instance, because those guys not much to lose. Xanderflander, John Jig, especially John Jig, when you see some of the opportunities that he had this season, he's had rotten luck throughout the course of this season, and he will definitely be feeling like his pace will be worthy of more podiums and possibly even a win or two here and there. And Xander van der, likewise, very strong driver. Those two are going to be absolutely gunning off the line for sure. I think that they're going to be really trying to come for Cheese Monkey early here in this race, and Cheese Monkey needs to be aware of the fact that they've got barely anything to lose here in this race, whereas he's got it all to lose with the championship, with everything. Especially when you consider that Freeman's not here as well. Marty, one of the outside championship contenders, is currently starting third in the standings. He will be starting in fourth, just behind these guys on the second row, so he's not too far away either. So Cheese Monkey just needs to keep it cool into Paddock Hill Bend, down the hill, right hand turn. It's always a bit of a tricky one, so he just needs to keep his cool, stay composed at the start. JR says, hoping our race pace is more competitive. Auto Butcher says, sorry for the typos, sausage fingers and small keyboards do not mix. Yeah, mate, I mean, I can't say I know what you mean, but for sure, you know, you definitely need a bigger phone screen or a laptop or something that allows your fingers to comfortably tap on the keypad. But yeah, absolutely. It's don't worry about the typos, mate. I know exactly what you're trying to say. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting night tonight. Cheese Monkey is, in a way, I think he'd probably rather be down in 4th or 5th than pole in this situation, but he is currently the one with the target on his head. He'll lead us away for this formation lap. As I said, it'll be one formation lap before the start of this race. Nilsson in the comments says, very tricky, have to take it safe to the checkered flag. Absolutely, it's going to be a marathon here. It's going to be about keeping yourself in the hunt, not making any mistakes and winning it on the first lap. This is going to be a race of attrition, and I'm sure that it's going to be a survival at the fittest. There's Cheese Monkey lining up on pole position. Xander van der in second place. Cheese Monkey leads the championship, as we said, by 17 points coming into this round over Freeman. Freeman not here tonight to try and claw that gap down. So it's going to be a free shot here for Cheese Monkey. Basically, Freeman's got his hands tight behind his back, and Cheese Monkey can go and jab at him as much as he wants, and Freeman's going to not be able to do anything in response. But Cheese Monkey obviously has got Marty Road Racing, one of his outside championship rivals, in P4, so anything can happen here in this race. JR send big energy, Andy, let's go. Don't jinx our boys. I'll try not to. I'll try to keep my aura out of T-Run DJC's business and prevent any curses from absolutely screwing you guys over tonight. Team Run DJC has got Marty Road Racing lining up on the second row, Kodalungu behind him in 5th place, so they're basically next to each other on the grid, and it's going to be a very, very close battle at the front, not just between those guys but between pretty much everybody in the top 5. It was only 0.4 of a second separating those top 5 drivers like Xander van der, John Jig and Kodalungu need to keep composed, need to keep consistent. Cheese Monkey and Marty, the kings of consistency this season. Marty less so. Cheese Monkey has been the absolute star of this season so far. Last season he took the title in a great battle with Standard Control, which went down to the wire, and he ended up coming out on top in that one. Went clear with a win at Bathurst in the penultimate round, then ultimately came home and took the title the week after that, when he secured it all at Alton Park in the final race of the season. So far this season he's really kicked off the first 8 rounds brilliantly, and I say the first 8 rounds, obviously we've only got 4 rounds left. We're almost 2/3 of the way through. We are 2/3 of the way through. Tonight we'll mark 75% completion here for season 3 for the GT4s. So Cheese Monkey's been so consistent throughout the course of this season. It's a much longer season this season. It's usually an 8-round season here at Motive. This one obviously a 12-round season. We made the seasons a bit longer for this season, seeing as it's the autumn/winter, so you know there's not really a whole lot else to do, unlike in the spring and the summer, when you know you might want to have shorter seasons because people aren't sure what they're going to be doing, you know, in 6, 8, 12 weeks time. In the winter you pretty much know you're going to be cooped up indoors most evenings, so it's definitely opportunity to get a longer season in. And right now Cheese Monkey, out in the first 8 rounds of this season, has been consistent as anything. He's been on the podium in more or less all of the races, and he's always up there or thereabouts. In this race he's obviously on pole position. He'll be looking to try and convert that to a win, but Xander van der and John Jick are going to be on it from the start. We know that for sure. With nothing to lose, those guys are really going to be gunning for the leader. Xander van der and John Jick will both be feeling like they probably could have had better results over the course of this season than they have. They've certainly got the potential to, but it just hasn't really fallen for either of them. But in these wet conditions at Brands Hatch, a British circuit, which a lot of these guys know, obviously primarily the main nation amongst all of these drivers is British. I believe Cheese Monkey, Xander Thunder and John Jig are all British, as is Marty. I believe Codalungu is as well. Pete Bibb, Lazy Camel is, Windsor as well. So I think about 7 or 8 drivers that are British in this field. So it's primarily Brits out there at the moment, and the Brits always tend to know the British circuits quite well, Brands Hatch being one of those. The wet conditions always do favour us Brits. We're quite used to this type of weather. It's something we're all familiar with. So for sure, I think tonight is going to be advantage Brits. As you can see, the first 5 cars on the grid are Brits, although Quideo up there in P6, not too bad of a qualifying for him. One of our German drivers, the GT3 champion on a Sunday night, is not going to win the GT3 championship this season. I think we know that by now. Jonathan Reed looking in imperious form in that one. But he is the champion from last season in the GT3s, is Credeo. He's got the credentials to win championships here at Motive on ACC, on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So he's going to be, I'm sure, gunning to try and challenge these Brits out front tonight. JR says, here we go, who's winning, guys? Show some love to the GT4 boys by pressing the thumbs up button. Yes, guys, please do. 9 of you watching. Let's get 9 likes on this video. 10 people watching now. No reason why we shouldn't have 10 likes on this video, guys. No reason whatsoever. 10 people watching. Who hasn't liked the video? Come on, own up. Drop the likes, please. Thank you. But Auto Butcher says, Cheese is a Devon boy, so used to the rain. Yeah, but having said that, though, I mean, it's Devon's probably one of the sunniest parts of the UK, so you know, as far as the UK goes, you've got pretty nice weather down that way, especially Cornwall, which is next door. But Scooter Red Paul says, I'll pick a winner in an hour. No, sorry, bets are closed. The betting is now done. Sorry, too late, guys. So anybody who's trying to place your bet now, you're going to have to go to a special kind of betting shot for that one. Cheese Monkey leads into Tabanic Hill Bend, though. Looks like he got a good start. Xander Fander in third. John Jig's facing heavy pressure, and he's been passed around the outside there by Marty Road Racing. Marty up into 4th as we see Codalungu wide coming down the exit of Paddock Hill. Cheese Monkey leads into Druids as it looks as though Credeo is trying to sneak up the inside here of Codalungu as he's tapping the rear of Marty a little bit there and looking to try and get it going as quickly as he can. And now you see Credeo around the outside of Codalungu in towards turn 3. Can he complete that move? He does it brilliantly there. Credeo up into 5th place. Pete Bibb there in 7th with King Quinn running in 8th place at the moment. Snooky, the Lazy Camel, and the timing board just doing its little dance here, which we're also used to now at this stage in ACC on PlayStation. But Morphy running at the back, and Cheese Monkey leads by 0.6 of a second ahead of Xander Fander in the early stages of this race. Cordeo, though, put a great move on Codalungu around the outside of Druids, and then managed to complete the move in towards turn 3. Really nicely done, and he's got heavy pressure now, though, to try and keep the position. Codalungu's now really on the back of him. As Codalungu gets a little bit of slide there, taps Cordeo in the rear ever so slightly, but manages to get control of it. Cordeo is really trying to get around John Jig here for 4th place. But Cheese Monkey leads by 0.7 of a second at the moment. These two have gapped Marty a little bit, just over a second back to Marty Road Racing running in 3rd place. But Cheese Monkey got the start that he really needed there. John Jig's managed to keep it on all fours for the time being here in 4th place. Not too bad of a first lap from John Jig, keeping it clean and staying out of trouble in these early stages. But right now Cheese Monkey leads by 0.7. JR says not good fighting first few laps to lose contact with the leaders. Absolutely, you don't want to make it over before it's even started, because that is just a complete waste of an opportunity. You want to be able to keep yourself in there, in the mix, and in with a chance. As we see there, Cheese Monkey leading by 0.7 ahead of Xander Fander. Marty, John Jig has got Cordeo and Codalungu in hot pursuit there. Duke Martin in 7th with Snooky 8th. Pete Bibb in 9th place. King Quinn completing the top 10 with Windsor at 11th. Windsor's gone wide. Oh, Windsor's deep into Paddock Hill, and Nilsson follows him onto the gravel there. Oh my goodness. We saw in the foreground King Quinn went a little bit wide, but managed to keep it more or less on the track. But Windsor and Nilsson there all over the place. Another postcode coming through Paddock Hill. Cheese Monkey still leads this race by 0.7 of a second, 0.8 now to Xander Fander. But that was a big moment there for those two, for both Windsor and Nilsson. And John Jig's still holding on for 4th ahead of Cordeo. Codalungu's really close on the back of Cordeo since Cordeo put that move on him through the first couple of corners on lap 1. The Codalungu's not giving up on this and is still very much in hot pursuit at the moment. JR says, I've seen a BMW flashing at the start. Could have been Morphy, who's out the back now, currently in P14, 2.5 seconds behind the next driver, who's in 13th, who is Nilsson. Cheese Monkey's not shaking off Xander Fander, though. Look at this. This is still a pretty close battle out the front of the pack. These two broken away a little bit from the rest of them as they got 2 seconds back to Marty running in 3rd place. But Xander Flander very much taking the fight to the championship leader in these early stages. And we said before, Xander Flander's got a lot less to lose. Cheese Monkey's got to keep calm. Auto Butcher saying in the comments there that Cheese needs to be consistent and needs to stay calm throughout the course of this race. JR says not always wise to follow the next guy's brakes. No, not at all. You don't want to be looking out for the braking lights. You want to be looking out for the braking markers, or just use your own intuition. Just look toward that. What I do is I just look towards the apex and just like sort of just brake. Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to explain, but John Jig a bit wide there coming through Paddock Hill, and Quideo not able to capitalise on it at the moment. As we see though, he's looking to the outside. John Jig though is going to defend that inside line really nicely. Kodalungu not able to capitalise on Quideo in any way, shape or form. JR says if Marty can keep up, it would if it dries, it will be interesting. Yeah, for sure. Well, I imagine from what you're saying, JR, is that Marty's got pretty strong pace in the dry, but he's keeping them. Nah, he's falling off a little bit, I've got to say now, actually, to be fair. Cheese Monkey's gapped Xander Flander by about a second, but Marty's seems to be falling off with them and doesn't seem to have the pace of these two in the wet, as John Jig has now got Quideo really close on him, but Kodalungu looking to the outside is going to try and duck out that slipstream, but now Quideo's going to get that run in John Jig's slipstream, and Kodalungu's not able to get anything done here, as Quideo having a little look to the inside, coming into the end of the back straight in this right-hander, but still no opportunities opening themselves up for Quideo, and he tucks in behind John Jig for the time being. Now Kodalungu's having a look on Quideo. Thinks better of that one. He's not in a position to be able to make that one work, as Quideo very wide onto the gravel though, and is that going to open an opportunity? Kodalungu's going to be side by side, and I think Kodalungu's going to have this move done coming into this next right-hander. He does indeed. Swoops up the inside. Thank you very much, says Kodalungu, up into 5th place, and now can try and focus his efforts on John Jig running in 4th. But these three dropping off at the back of Marty, and Marty dropping off the back of the 2 leaders. Cheese Monkey's got a 1.2 second gap over Xander Flander at the moment, and it's very much looking in control of this race at this early stage. But that could all change very quickly. 1.2 seconds is not very much in the grand scheme of things. JR says, what was the billboard about? I have no idea. This race won't be drying up, that's for sure, says Scooter Red Bull. I don't know at this stage, probably not, but you just never know. Having said that, I mean, it's quite cold, so even if it stops raining, it probably would take more than an hour for the track to even dry up. So, Paul, I think you might be spot on the money there. I didn't see what the billboard was about, JR. If you could shed some light on that. Obviously it's quite difficult, it's very dark here, but if you could, mate, that would be appreciated, as we see Kodalungu there got ahead of Quideo there up into 5th, but he's a bit wide, and now Quideo's going to try and come back up the inside here, coming out the exit of turn 3, up in towards Sheens, and onto the brakes they come, and Quideo there makes that move back up on Kodalungu, up into 5th place. Can Kodalungu try and get the cut back here and come back in down the back straight? No, he can't. That is Quideo back up into P5, but these two have dropped off the back of John Jig a little bit over the course of that first sector there as they were battling, and Duke Martin's now really close on them as well, only 0.7 of a second off of these two, battling out over 5th place. As we see Cheese Monkey there leading the race by 1.6 seconds ahead of Xander Flander. Marty Road Racing has got Marty Road Racing has got a bit of a gap back to John Jig, Quideo and Kodalungu. Duke Martin's dropped off at the back of Quideo and Kodalungu ever so slightly since pulling up onto the back of him recently. Oh, as we see there, that's his oh my goodness me, that's John Jig there getting all over the place, and Quideo and Kodalungu both coming through, and John Jig's now down to P6 in this race. I think the timing board's still yet to update itself, but I'm sure 100% John Jig is in P6, not P4, and Quideo is in 4th, Kodalungu into 5th. So both of those two sneaking through, as John Jig got a little bit of a slide on coming through the penultimate corner, and that is unfortunately all she wrote for John Jig. He's now got Duke Martin for company, as those two coming out over the start finish line to complete the 4th lap of the race even. But Quideo there getting himself up into 4th, Kodalungu 5th, John Jig there in 6th place with Duke Martin 7th, Snooky bringing himself into this action in 8th place, Pete Bibb 9th, and King Queen completing the top 10 there. Lazy Camel in the background coming over the line to complete the 4th lap of the race in 11th place. You've got Nilsson there in 12th, couple of seconds behind the Lazy Camel, with Windsor 13th, and SMT Morphy's closing up onto the back of Nilsson and Windsor a little bit now, only about a second off of those guys, so this could get interesting in this fight for 12th place here. But Quideo is still running in 4th, having got ahead of Kodalungu, and both of them getting ahead of John Jig there on that previous lap. John Jig's only got 0.7 of a second back to Duke Martin, so Duke Martin once again showing that he's got some tremendous pace in the wet conditions. We've seen before in this GT4 season, Duke Martin seems to excel in these tricky conditions. A bit like John Jig, he seems to really step it up a gear when the going gets tough. Gap between Cheese Monkey and Xander Van Der, 1.7 seconds. That's kind of staying at around the same at the moment. Those two matching each other for pace as we see Kodolungu there. Sorry, no, not Kodolungu. As we just saw Credero there getting very wide, and Kodolungu not able to capitalise on that for the time being. Duke Martin still just behind John Jig at the moment, 7/10 between those two. Snooky's dropped off at the back of this, guys. He was closing in a little bit over the course of that previous lap there, but he's now 1.5 behind Duke Martin. He's got in turn a 1.2 second gap back to Pete Bibb, running in 9th place. A big gap back to King Quinn in 10th. In other news, Wins is closing up onto the back of Nielsen a bit, 0.8 of a second between these two at the moment. Cordero still running in this 4th place. They've still got Kodolungu in very hot pursuit as they're coming out of the last corner, out onto the start finish straight for the 6th time here, or 5th time should I say. As I keep thinking that Cheese Monkey's on the same lap, but obviously whenever they cross the line he's already started the next lap. So Cheese Monkey here into Druids has lost a bit of time to Xander Flander. Xander Flander really closed on him on that last lap. He gained about 3-4 tenths on him, so Xander Flander maybe starting to get those tyres up to temperature. Both of these front two in the Ginetta, and it seems to be a really strong package in the wet conditions around Brands Hatch tonight. It seems like the Ginetta is the car to be in here, as these two are now starting to run away out the front. They've got almost 3 seconds back to Marty running in 3rd place. Marty's got quite a big gap back to Cordeo and Kodolungu, as these two have gapped John Jig by about a second, and Duke Martin's fallen off a bit of a John Jig chair, just over a second back in P7. You've got Snooky 2.5 seconds behind him in 8th place, with Pete Bibb almost 3 seconds behind Snooky in 9th, and King Quinn running in that final top 10 spot, 4 seconds behind Pete Bibb at this point. Nathan Campbell 2 seconds behind in 11th place. There's Nilsson still running in P12. He's got a bit of a gap back to Windsor now, as we see Morphy going wide, ever so wide out of Sheens there, and as he got it back on the track, I think he might be in trouble there out wide. He still hasn't got it going again. I think he's completely lost it on the exit of that corner. That's given Windsor a bit of breathing space, and we still haven't seen Morphy emerge back onto the track yet, so he hasn't come back into the camera shot. I don't know what's happened to SMT Morphy there. As we see, Cheese Monkey's managed to gap Xander Flander a little bit over the course of that, the first 2 sectors really. The gap's now almost 2 seconds. It was 1.4 at the beginning of this lap, so Cheese Monkey's had a much better run of it here on lap 6 as they crossed the line. Xander Flander gained a 10th though, coming through that final sector there. JR saying Team Run DJC currently have all our hair dryers out on the track. Shame that Merck was defending like a boss. Yeah, it was, unfortunately, there. But we've got Scooter Red Paul says hopefully they finally fix the graphical bug with the Mercedes AMG wheels for the PS5 version. Yeah, absolutely. That would be long overdue. Indeed. Auto Butcher says, JR, your hair dryers are no match for my rain dance. Whoa, I haven't seen your rain dance yet, Auto Butcher. If we knew what your PSM was, that might be a bit of a clue, but at the moment we've got Cheese Monkey still leads this race, and he's pulled up 0.2 of a second in that first sector there. He's now got almost 2 seconds once again to Xander Flander. That gap's now ebbing and flowing. Those two kind of just trading fastest laps at the moment as they're continuing to pull away from Marty. Marty's continuing to pull away from Kodolungu, and Kodolungu's got a bit of a gap back to Cordeo, who's now got John Jig in hot pursuit with Duke Martin very close behind these two as well. This is a 3-man battle for 5th place here. But at the moment, Cordeo holding on to that position ahead of John Jig and Duke Martin. And to be fair, they're still on the back of Kodolungu. Kodolungu hasn't been able to shake them off. Cordeo was a little bit quicker than Kodolungu coming through that middle sector there. Oh, it's Kodolungu very wide, sliding off the road a little bit, and is that going to present opportunity? Cordeo got a much better run coming through that third to last corner. He's looked outside. Kodolungu's gone wide. He's gone very deep as he's sliding all the way across the surface there, and that's given Cordeo that position up into 4th place. And can John Jig try and seize on this as they're coming into the final corner? This is technically like all one corner here, but that's now Cordeo up into 4th place. Kodolungu seems to be struggling a little bit in these wet conditions. He was all over the place there, was really struggling to get the car turned in, and when he did, it was just getting all sorts of out of shape. Seems to be alright getting the power down, but it's getting the car into the corners where he seems to be at the moment coming a bit unstuck. You've got John Jig on the back of Kodolungu now, and Duke Martin's still waiting in the wings, hoping to pounce if these guys do end up tripping over each other. But Kodolungu just needs to get his head together, get himself back in the game, because there's a long race left to go. He needs to avoid any mistakes at this stage in the race. As we've got Cheese Monkey still leading this race by just over 2 seconds at the moment to Xander Flander. But these two got a bit of a gap back to Marty. Marty's not falling off by as much as he was in the early stages of the race, to be fair. He's kind of picked it up a little bit over this last lap or so. but or the last couple of laps really, as we see Codalungu's within 0.3 of a second of Credeo at the moment. Credeo really slamming those brakes on there, and Codalungu though trying to get back onto that P4 if he can. He's now looking to the inside of Credeo. Credeo leaving the door open. He's far enough in front to be safe from any send-its at this point, but Jonjic there just behind him, P6. These guys are now gap Duke Martin a little bit. Duke Martin's a further second back in P7. Oh, big slide from Jonjic, very nicely held there from him. That was a very close call there for the man in the number 42 Mercedes, as he's now dropped a little bit off of Codalungu, and that will have only increased the amount of focus that Duke Martin's got on that possible 6th place here. Credeo and Codalungu still very close in their battle for 4th and 5th places, but Jonjic there did a very good job of keeping that point in the right direction, keeping it on the track. That was very close indeed to tears there, as Cheese Monkey's gap to Xander Flanders come down a little bit over that lap. It's now 1.6 seconds, so once again we've seen this throughout the course of the race. It's ebbing and flowing between these front two, but Xander Flanders very much keeping the reigning champ on his toes here, and keeping him honest out the front. And Marty, to be fair, only 3.7 back, will be looking to try and take points off of Cheese Monkey if he can, with Freeman obviously the main championship contender for Team Run DJC not here tonight. It means that they've really got work to do in that championship, as Cheese Monkey pulled out almost half a second in that first sector there over Xander Flanders. So Cheese Monkey seems to be very quick in that first part of the lap, but then it might struggle a little bit down those straights. But the straights here at Brands Hatch, not too long, not really making a whole load of difference in those sections of the track, it must be said. Guitar, it says, sorry Jonjic, the cheerleaders said it's raining and dark. Yep, no cheerleaders tonight unfortunately. Jonjic there is running in currently in P6 in this race. He's about a second or so off at the back of Codalungu, who's still pretty close to the back of Credeo right now, but Jonjic has managed to keep ahead of Duke Martin despite the pressure from Duke Martin over the course of these last few laps. The man in the number 6 Aston Martin is currently trying to find a way through, as he can see the other guys in the distance now starting to get away a little bit. Jonjic maybe he's just lost a bit of confidence over these last few laps, needs to get himself together, needs to just pick himself up and go again, as he's got the pace in these conditions. We saw it in qualifying, but right now seems to be in a bit of a funk here, as he's dropping off at the back of Credeo and Codalungu ever so slightly. Gap between Cheese Monkey and Xander Flanders has gone up massively on this lap. He's gained about a second there as Cheese Monkey on the man currently sat in second place, trying to chase him down here in this race, but it's not coming to any avail for Xander Flanders at this point. These two are both gap Marty road racing, so Cheese Monkey's really put the hammer down over these last couple of laps. Credeo is still running ahead of Codalungu, 0.7 of a second separating those two as they're coming into Druids. You got Jonjic in the background there, has still got Duke Martin hassling him, trying to get himself into P6 if he can. Snooky there running in 8th place, has got 4 seconds further back to Pete Bibb. King Quinn there in the final top 10 spot with the 2.5 seconds back to the Lazy Camel running in 11th place. Windsor there in 12th, Nilsson 13th, and we've lost SMT Morphy. SMT Morphy is out of the race, so he's retired very early on here tonight. What a shame there for him. Obviously he was struggling a little bit in these conditions. We saw him run wide coming out of Sheens a few laps ago, and we just saw he wasn't returning to the track. The camera was kind of like stuck in a spot where you couldn't actually see him. He was just sat in a black spot off camera. But it appears that he has retired subsequently from the race, so that's obviously such a shame there for SMT Morphy. He'll score no points here tonight. The SMT team, a relatively new team here at Motive, joined mid-season here during this current season that we're in at the moment, and SMT race, there's 3 of them, I think 3 or 4 of them race on a Sunday night in the GT3s. Usually it's just Morphy and Zalova here on the Wednesday nights here for the GT4s, but Zalova not here tonight unfortunately for whatever reason, so it's just Morphy turning out tonight. But obviously a real shame to see him retire so early on in this one, as we're watching Cheese Monkey coming into turn 1 at the moment. It's got almost a 3-second gap here over Xander Flanders. Marty Road Racing running in the final podium spot there in 3rd place still. You got Credeo running in 4th. He's got 4/10 further back to Codalungu as they're coming over the line to complete the 10th lap of the race. Jonjic there in 6th. Duke Martin has dropped off at the back of Jonjic ever so slightly over the course of this lap. Now just over 1 second separating those two. JR saying 35 to 25 is the mandatory pit window. Yeah, sorry Scooter here, Paul. Yeah, exactly the same as what you see on a Sunday night in the GT3s. Their pit window is 25 to 35. So yeah, that's yeah, pretty much the same. It's always been the same for the 1 hour races. I believe when it was a 45-minute race, it was something like, I think it was like, you know what, I don't even know now to be fair. I think it was 30 to 15. I don't know. to be honest. I might, yeah, I think 30 to 15 in the 45-minute races. The 2-hour races, I remember it was a bit longer. It was something like 120 to 40. I don't know. But yeah, the pit window bang in the middle of the race. It always is, always the same way. But we got right now Cheese Monkey still leading 3.5 seconds as gap to Zander Vander, so he's really pulled out the gap over the last lap or so. As Qatar Rich says, thinking do I spend 15 quid to be as bad? I mean, good. Mate, spend the £15 and get this game and get yourself the season pass for ACC. And I implore anyone else watching here on the Motive channel to do the same. If you race with some Project Cars 2 or F1, get ACC on the PlayStation. I promise you, it's well worth it. And here at Motive, I'm going to be putting out a poll soon on the Discord server to all ACC players, asking what leagues people would want for next season, because I'm sort of planning on focusing more on ACC for the new year, because I know that Project Cars is kind of like, I think it's on its way out a little bit. I don't know whether I'll keep a couple of the leagues, the more popular ones on Project Cars, maybe the LMP2s and the touring cars, but yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But I'm definitely looking to try and bring a few more ACC leagues, whether that be like a GT3 and GT4 sprint league, so you like 2 shorter races, and then keep these longer 1-hour endurance races, but maybe have like a sprint cup on a couple of the other days, or try and bring the Porsche Cup back if we can build up a reasonably strong driver base. Maybe we can get the Porsche Cup back going again on a Monday night. Possibly a multi-class series. I'd love to get some more ACC leagues going here at Motive throughout the week, and really fill up our schedule, because I do love commentating on ACC. It's kind of like there are phases where I find it a bit frustrating with the whole timing board and stuff, but yeah, it's definitely looking to try and bring more ACC leagues here at Motive on the PlayStation platform. As we see, Zander Vander continues to drop off for the leader, Cheese Monkey, at the moment. Over 4 seconds now separating those two. Kodalungu's still on the back of Quadeo, but there's now 9/10 between them, so Quadeo's got a reasonable enough cushion back to him at this point. JR says, I got my PC set up today. Raced ACC, it's a different game. Yeah, it's a different animal on PC. I've seen that. It's a hell of a game on PC. Scooter Paul says, have you done a Lamborghini Super Trofeo series? Not yet, no. We did consider it before, but the sign-ups weren't enough. We got about 10 sign-ups for it, so we decided not to go ahead with it. But hey, we might start that up for next season. A Super Trofeo would be an interesting one. As I say, I think that a shorter or like a Sprint Cup series for the GT3 or GT4s, maybe 2 30-minute races, as well as the ones we got here, might be a decent addition as well. That could definitely throw up some dramas and be something to fill in the gaps throughout the week, especially if we're sizing down on Project Cars. But yeah, that would definitely be a good one to have. Guitar Rich says, nice, thinking my next platform PC. Yeah, lots of people are moving to PC at the moment. It's definitely proving to be the place to go at the moment. But at this point in the race, Cheese Monkey still leads by 5 seconds over Zander Vander. Further 4 seconds back to Marty running in third. 9 seconds off for the leader. Quadeo over 15 seconds now off of the leader, Cheese Monkey, but still got Kodalungu in close company here as these two continue to fight it out over 4th and 5th places. They are 2.5 seconds clear of John Jig, who's managed to put a second between himself and Duke Martin, but John Jig seems to be falling off the pace a little bit at this point in the race. He's nearly 20 seconds off for the leader, Cheese Monkey now. Duke Martin running in 7th, Snooky going in 8th place still has got Pete Bibb closing in on him a little bit. Just looking at that timing board there, you can see that Pete Bibb's definitely gaining on Snooky at this point. And Kingpin running in P10 at this point. It's got 2 seconds further back to the Lazy Camel. Nielsen in 12th, and Windsor completing the classification at this point in 13th place. But Quadeo just putting a bit more of a gap between himself and Kodalungu over the course of that lap there. Now just over a second between those two. So Quadeo sitting pretty there in that 4th place for now. As John Jig still only got about a second back to Duke Martin. Duke Martin gained a couple of tenths on John Jig coming through that final sector there. So Duke Martin's definitely got the potential to take this fight to John Jig for 6th in this race, and potentially further up, as they're not too far off of Quadeo and Kodalungu either. So you know, very much could be on the cards for either of these two to get themselves in the top 5 in the second half of this race. But pit window will be opening in a couple of minutes now, so we're coming up to that stage in the race where it gets to crunch time, where the unpredictability just ramps up a little bit more. Do drivers change tyres? Do they opt for the tyres that they started on and shorten their time spent in the pit stops? Or, you know, what do they do at this point? Obviously it's a no-brainer at the moment to stay on the wet tyres. There's not even, they can't even start considering going on the slick tyres at this point with the track conditions the way they are. The rain's still falling heavier than it's actually shedding at this point, so the track's getting worse and worse, and wet tyres are really the only way to go at this stage. As Kotarich is saying, come on pit window, he's clearly wanting that pit window to hurry up a little bit and get a move on, because these guys here want an opportunity to try and spice the race up a little bit, try and throw their hat into the mix and potentially get themselves ahead of the drivers running in the top 5. But we see here John Jig defending to the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. Duke Martin trying to get it around the long way here, but John Jig there expertly parking his car on the inside. Guitar Rich says who has damage. I don't know if John Jig might have a bit of damage, because he's dropped off for the leaders quite a bit over the course of this first stint. But he's keeping Duke Martin at bay still, but these two now 4 seconds off at the back of Quideo and Codalungu. Those two still haven't changed over in their battle for 4th and 5th. It's staying very much the same between those two for the time being. Cheese Monkey's still got a 5-second gap over Xander Flander, just under 5 seconds. Marty's about 10 seconds off of the leader at this point. So he's got work to do for sure. If he can get a short pit stop, he might be able to bring himself a little bit closer to the leaders. But at the moment we're just watching Codalungu and John Jig, sorry, not Codalungu, John Jig and Duke Martin even battling it out over 6th and 7th. What am I talking about? I'm going nuts today. But at the moment, yeah, John Jig staying just ahead of Duke Martin, and Duke Martin's dropped a little bit off of John Jig over the course of this lap, as the pit window is now open, so these drivers can come in at any point between now and 10 minutes time. Did Cheese Monkey go over the line before we got to the pit window? No, he didn't, but he comes over the line anyway to start lap 16. Xander Flander also staying out for the time being, and Marty's in the pits, so Marty pulling the trigger here at the end of lap 16. He's coming in, lap 15 even, sorry. Quideo coming over the line is about to complete his 15th lap of the race, and he's got Codalungu still in hot pursuit, 7 tenths between those two as they move up into 3rd and 4th with Marty's pit stop. But Marty in the box, John Jig staying out for the time being. What does Duke Martin do? Duke Martin stays out, he's dropped off for John Jig. John Jig's pulled a bit of a gap to Duke Martin over this last lap or so. Snooky there running in 8th place, he's a long way behind those two, John Jig and Duke Martin. Pete Bibb there a couple of seconds behind. Snooky still keeping himself very much in that battle. We've got King Quinn there in 9th place, just under 5 seconds behind Pete Bibb. Lazy Camel still going in. P10 is now behind King Quinn. King Quinn's got himself ahead of the Lazy Camel there into 9th, I think. No, maybe not. No, actually no, that was as it was before. But those two up into 9th and 10th places with Marty in the pits, and Marty's off and out and on his way once again, and he's going to come out just behind Nilsson here, I think. So Nilsson's just, no, in fact he comes out ahead of him, so Marty just about holds on there ahead of Nilsson as he comes out of Paddock Hill Bend and comes out in 11th place, having made that pit stop. So he's now got that done and out of the way and has a clean slate from here on in until the end of the race. Cheese Monkey still leads the race, the championship leader leads this race, and the reigning champion looking good to extend his points gap at the top of the standings, and is looking ever closer now to making it a double championship in these GT4s. The GT4 championship here at Motive on ACC on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 was won by Javier Ranz in its first season. Second season, last season, did go to this man here, Cheese Monkey, on your screen right now. Can he make it his second title here? He's raced in the GT4s since the beginning here at Motive. Raced in the first season, was I mean, I can say from experience, because I actually raced in the GT4s, I'd say he was kind of like one of those guys who was up near the front, but like towards the mid pack. So like he was a driver who you'd usually see sometimes on the fringes of the podium, not usually on the podium, but it'd be up there, sort of there or thereabouts, fighting for top fives. I think is a fair estimate of where Cheese Monkey was in season 1. He was usually up there near the sharp end, but not quite, you know, right at the pinnacle. and then season 2 he really stepped it up quite a bit. He challenged standard control all the way down to the final race of the season, and ended up taking the final 2 wins of the season. No, she didn't take the final race of the season. He came second to Cam Diz in the final race, but he was certainly a lot stronger than standard control in the final part of the season. But yeah, Cheese Monkey obviously won the championship last season, and this season he's been just the perfect version of himself. He kicked off the season brilliantly at Paul Ricard. He took a win, came out on top in a great battle with Credeo. Nobody got near Cady at Bathurst, but obviously you can't really blame anybody for that. Cady's just another level on the PlayStation platform. I know there's a couple of guys who can challenge him. I'm sure Cheese Monkey can challenge him on his day, but Cheese Monkey had an absolute mare on that day at Bathurst this season, which is ironic really, considering that it was Bathurst where he basically put himself on the verge of taking the title last season with a brilliant win. But this season he had an absolute horror show at Bathurst. But since then he's been pretty consistent. He took a win at Barcelona, and then before Spa last week, I think Freeman was on a really strong run of form. Out of the 5 races before Spa last week, Freeman had finished ahead of Cheese Monkey in 4 of those 5 races, and to be fair, he'd got a win, a second, and I think a couple of second places here and there. But Freeman had outscored Cheese Monkey in most of those races. But then last week Cheese Monkey managed to chase down Freeman in the closing stages all the way down to the last lap. Cheese Monkey found himself on the back of Freeman, made them overtake around the outside of turn 11 down towards Pouan on the final lap of the race last week, and managed to nick the win from Freeman when Freeman had led pretty much all of it. So Cheese Monkey would have actually ended up being 8 points ahead of, he would have ended up having his championship gap cut to 8 points if Freeman had won that race. But because he managed to get ahead of him on that last lap, the gap is now 17 points coming into tonight, and with Freeman not being here as well, it really does hand him the impetus. I mean, it just goes to show really, when you've got 2 drivers battling for the championship and they're having on-track battles, it's amazing how far it can swing. The fact that the gap would have been just 8 points if he had stayed ahead of him, and it ended up being 17 because Cheese Monkey made that move on him, just shows how crucial moves for position are with the drivers who you're battling for the championship with. It goes to show how fine margins it really is. But Cheese Monkey's into the pits here at the end of lap 18, so he's coming in now. Is Xanafander going to follow suit? No, Xanafander's staying out for the time being, so he continues on his way. But Cheese Monkey into the pits. Cordeo is staying out for the time being as well. What about Codalungu? Codalungu's in, so Codalungu's going to try and get the jump here on Cordeo if he can. He's going to go for the undercut. Duke Martin's had not the best of laps over the last couple of laps. He's a little way behind these two at the moment. His battles really with John Jig, as John Jig obviously pulled the trigger early, and now Duke Martin's also in. Marty's obviously been into the pits already. Windsor, the only driver aside from the top 2, Xanafander and Cordeo, to have not come in and made his pit stop. So Cheese Monkey, Codalungu and Duke Martin all in the pits now. Duke Martin's battles with John Jig. He'll be wanting to come out ahead of him and get the overcut. John Jig's obviously gone for that undercut, and likewise, obviously you saw Codalungu coming in for that early pit stop. He's going to hope that he can get the undercut on Cordeo. All of these questions, all of these speculations will be found out by the time we get to the end of this pit window, and then further on we'll find out what happens in terms of the race when we see what pace these drivers have got once they come in out of those pit stops and get themselves back into some action. But Auto Butcher in the comments says many could do well from that early pit. Last season's Bathurst was amazing. Last few laps were wild. Yeah, they absolutely were. I remember that race very vividly. And it was what a drive it was from Cheese Monkey. But it's funny how, like, you know, you can have one amazing race at a track one season, and then the next season Cheese Monkey had like the worst race imaginable at the same track, literally I think like a couple of months later. So, you know, it goes to show form is everything, and it's so much of how you get on in a race is just how you feel on the night. Like, you know, your morale, your confidence, a little bit of practice here and there might go a little way, because obviously immediate familiarity with the circuit that you're driving at can help you out a lot. If you haven't really driven it in the lead up to the race, then you can be found out a bit. But it was just funny, I thought, how he had the most incredible race there last season, back end of last season, and then start of this season it was like, what was that? But to be fair, that's the only blip on Cheese Monkey's season so far. You know, he's been so strong throughout the course of this season. I mean, he's been consistently on the podium in like almost all of the races so far this season. He really has been on another level. And out of the 8 races that we've had so far this season, Cheese Monkey has been off the podium once, and that was the race at Bathurst where he came in 4th. And you know, I say that he had a mare at Bathurst. 4th place isn't even that bad, you know, in the grand scheme of things. That's quite a decent result, as far as most drivers would see it. But for Cheese Monkey this season, that was quite a blip, as we just see there Xander Fanda coming out of the pits and back onto the racetrack there out of Paddock Hill Bend. So that leaves just Quadeo to make his pit stop here. But the big news here is that Marty is held on for 4th ahead of Kodalungu, but Xander Fanda has jumped Marty. No, hold on, no, he was already ahead of him. I do apologise. No, Xander Fanda was sorry. Xander Fanda was in 2nd behind Cheese Monkey before. I do apologise. The big news here is that John Jig stayed ahead of Duke Martin. Duke Martin's dropped off of John Jig quite a lot, and he's coming in again. Duke Martin's in again. Okay, I don't know what's happened here, but Duke Martin's come into the pits for an impromptu pit stop. I don't know whether he didn't put tyres on, maybe. No, it wouldn't be that. Maybe he didn't put fuel in the car. Starting to think maybe Duke Martin didn't put fuel in the car, but Cordeo's coming into the pits here at the end of lap 20. So he's going to be making that mandatory pit stop. That will hand the lead back to Cheese Monkey. So the order's still more or less the same. Cheese Monkey was leading the race. Xander Fanda was running in 2nd and was kind of just keeping tabs with him. Marty was running a little way behind them. But the really big news here is that Kodalungu has closed the gap to Marty by quite a lot. Marty was clearly ahead of Kodalungu by quite some way before the pit stops, and Kodalungu was battling with Quadeo before the pit window. Now Kodalungu's come out and he's literally right up Marty's chuff. But the question is now, is Quadeo going to come out ahead of Kodalungu here, or is Quadeo going to lose out to Kodalungu? And obviously, if Quadeo does get a decent pit stop here, he might come out near Marty. But here we go, these two coming down the start-finish straight. Marty and Kodalungu over the line up towards Paddock Hill, and it looks as though Kodalungu's managed to get the move done on Quadeo up into what is technically a net 4th place. In fact, it is 4th place now as the pit window's done. So Quadeo down to P5. Looks like he's got some work to do here in the final part of this race if he wants to try and reel in Marty and Cod. But Cod, I would say, the big winner in that pit window, because he has managed to get himself really close onto the back of Marty Road Racing, and now maybe in with a shout of a podium spot possibly in this race, as he's got that podium very much in his sights. The timing board saying that Quadeo in the final podium spot. That's a massive lie, as the timing board, there we go, just updates now and pushes Quadeo down to 5th place. So Marty in that final podium spot, but Kodalungu's coming for him, and Quadeo not too far back off of them in 5th place. So this is going to be interesting in the closing stages, that is for sure. But Cheese Monkey's still leading this race by 8 seconds over Xander Fanda at this point. So for the time being, Cheese Monkey's got this one under control, as we just see a back marker there losing it in the background. That was I think that must have been Windsor there, or was it Nilsson? It was Nilsson there that we saw losing it in the background of Cheese Monkey's shot. But Cheese Monkey's got an 8-second gap over Xander Fanda. That's kind of stayed around the same. Cheese Monkey's consistently putting out that gap at the front since the beginning of this one, looking like he might have this one under control. Xander Fanda still going in P2. He's got 8 seconds back to this battle for the final podium spot, which Marty's currently heading. But Kodalungu has been putting the pressure on him since this pit window. Cod will obviously be counting his blessings that he's been able to close that gap to Marty by as much as he has over the course of this pit window, and now very much in striking distance here of picking up a podium spot. Quadeo, though, gained on both of them on that previous lap. The gap now 2.7 back to Quadeo, so he is pretty much on the verge here of getting onto this battle and possibly making a 3-way fight for the podium spots. Snooky's got a 2-second gap back to Pete Biv at the moment in this battle for 7th and 8th places, so that's looking like that's going to be a pretty hot battle here. But yeah, currently Marty's put a bit of a gap between himself and Cod, but Cordero is really starting to reel Cod in here. I wonder if Cordero's put fresh tyres on, whereas Cod hasn't, and maybe that's going to affect Cod's pace in the closing stage of this one, especially in the wet. The fresher rubber will be really paying dividends once we get to the end, even more so than it would be on the slicks. But we've got it all to find out, I suppose, in the closing stages of this race. Big thanks to everybody who's commented tonight, to Auto Butcher, Guitar Rich, Scuderia Paul, JR, and obviously Ratched at the start of the stream, as well as Yeehaw. Big thank you to you guys for chiming in and saying hello. If you haven't already, guys, drop a like on this video. We've got 10 likes on the stream at the moment. Let's see if we can push that number as high as it can possibly go before we get to the end of this race. But Cordero's still reeling in Codlinger, and Codlinger's actually closed in a little bit on Marty coming through the course of that lap there, as we just see a back marker getting out of the way. And that's Nilsson there, moving well out of the way for the leaders as they come through, so that's good driving there from Nilsson. Very good spatial awareness there from him. But Marty still sat in that final podium spot by 9/10 of a second right now. Codlinger, though, looking to try and find a way through if he can. Still hassling him and pressuring him, and looking for an opening and trying to get himself onto that podium. Cordero still really needs to win as well, looking very, very hot on those hills on the horizon there in the background. But Cheese Monkey still leads this race, almost of a 10-second gap now over Xander Flander, looking like he's in cruise control here tonight, as we're almost into the final third here at Brands Hatch. Here we come up towards Paddock Hill Bend, and Codlinger's having a little look to the inside of Marty Road Racing, coming into the corner. Cordero there in the background, just still sticking to the back of them, still waiting, hoping to pounce on them. As we see Codlinger really riding over that curb there, getting all over the rumble strip. Still trying to defend from Cordero whilst attempting to attack on Marty if he can. So Codlinger here has really got pressure from Cordero. Cordero looking to the outside into Druids, but Codlinger's defending that inside line. He's hugging that curb and just not allowing any gaps to form at the moment. Cordero looking like he might have a bit more grip at this point in the race. Maybe I'm starting to think this theory of Codlinger not pitting the tyres maybe the case. I don't know. I could be wrong on that. and it will definitely be found out by the end. Oh, Codlungu's wide into Sheens. Cordeo's going to swoop up the inside and takes the position off him up into 4th place, as Codlungu there just got it all wrong. Looked like he was struggling to get it turned in. He braked in the right place and seemed alright on exit, but just that mid part of the corner there, Codlungu really struggling for grip, and that's all Cordeo needed to get up into 4th place there. And can now try and chase down Marty. So Marty's still running in 3rd. It's now got just about a second back to Cordeo. But Codlungu laps the concentration there. Loses out on that 4th place for the time being. Gap at the front between Cheese Monkey and Xanathanda is staying the same. It's not going up. It's just staying at around 8 seconds. It has been like that ever since the end of the pit window. So Xanathanda's not doing too bad of a job here, but Cheese Monkey's got that gap, and I would imagine at this point the championship leader just wants to bring it home. Paul saying in the comments there, my pleasure, enjoy tuning in, just wish I could watch more races live. Yeah, it's always good to see you in the comments, Paul, and one of our main commenters here at Motive. It's always nice to see some of the drivers who race here also having a look at the other series and checking it out. Paul's obviously got a couple of friends in this GT4 league who he can come in and check out, and as we say, it is really appreciated when drivers come in, just see how we're getting on, checking out how their friends are doing out on track. Never feel afraid to drop in a comment saying who you're supporting, or let us know who you're looking at, who you're wanting, who you're rooting for. You know, I know there's a few drivers in the Discord who sometimes watch but don't say a whole lot, but by all means, guys, you know, tell us you're here, make yourself heard, make yourself known. Always nice to see that we've got drivers checking out the other series. But Cheese Monkey's still leading this race. He's just gained about half a second on Xanathanda over the course of this particular lap. Marty's still got half a second back to Cordeo at this point, and Codlungu there still running in 5th place, but he's dropped off at the back of Marty and Cordeo by quite a bit here. So Cordeo trying to make some gains here and try and get himself into that podium spot if he can. He looks to have a much more better package at this point in the race than Marty. Marty had the pace of the 2 leaders, Cheese Monkey and Xanathanda, in the early stages. Seems to be going with them, but at this point, since the pit window, he's dropped off a little bit. Maybe Cordeo's just found a little bit of confidence here. And Cordeo will be, I'm sure, trying to ensure that it isn't an all Brits 1-2-3 here in Britain at Brands Hatch. He's now looking to get a good run here out onto the start-finish straight, and Marty's going to leave the gap on the inside. Cordeo's going to have a look here, and I wonder if off of that racing line here in these wet conditions, is that going to work here? Marty leaves a gap on the inside, but it takes a much better radius around Paddock Hill, and Cordeo has to think better about that one. He's going to have to get up a little bit earlier in the morning to go and grab Marty. It coming through Paddock Hill and in towards Druids they come. Marty Road Racing still keeping Cordeo at bay by about a 1/10 of a second, but whilst these two battle it out, they're just keeping Codlungu more or less in the distance at bay, but Codlungu's not quite able to make a move here, or not able to really make hay while the sun shines and capitalise on these two. Just slowing each other down a little bit as we now see him up the inside. Look at this. Oh no, Marty's gone wide. He's ever so wide onto the grass there, and he's had a total nightmare there. Cordeo's up into the podium spots. He's been pressuring him for a while. Cordeo's had a much better run of it since the pit stops, and that's given Codlungu back 4th place. Where is Marty? Has he lost out to John Jig? He has. Has he? I don't know. No, he hasn't lost out to John Jig, but he's lost out to both Cordeo and to Codlungu. Marty Road Racing down to P5 after that. Oh my goodness. That is gone absolutely horrifyingly wrong there for Marty Road Racing. Was running in a podium spot, had heavy pressure from Cordeo, and that pressure eventually got to boiling point, and he's now down to P5. Cordeo has got that P3 in the bag and looks set to bring this one home for 3rd place, barring any major catastrophes in the final part of this race, as Cordeo's got 1.6 back to Codlungu, running it in 4th place still, but Marty 12 seconds behind. Codlungu now in 4th place. John Jig now looking to try and get himself into the top 5 here, ahead of Marty if he can. Got Kieran Scholes in the comments. Welcome along, mate. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in the comments for a while, actually, I must say. Long time no see. Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think when the last time I saw your name in the comments was. It's been a while. Scooter Paul saying, actually the only other person I know in Motive is Raki. We joined together for Porsche Super Cup 2 seasons back. You've got a nice community that's worth watching. Oh no, Marty appears to think it's the Indy circuit layout. Yes he does. The Indy circuit, obviously quite quite a cool feature on Project Cars too. Always fun to race in the Clios and the touring cars. Always love racing that track in the slower front wheel drive cars on Project Cars. Oh, didn't want to do that. Whoopsie daisy. Apologies, guys. But yeah, definitely not what you want to be racing in a GT3. But right now, still Cheese Monkey leading this race. Has pulled out a bit of gap to Xanafander over the course of the last couple of laps or so. Now 9.5 seconds between those two. Quadeo still running in third place, 20 seconds off of the leader. Cheese Monkey, then you've got a further 1.5 seconds back to Kodalungu. Since getting the move done on Kodalungu, he then chased down Marty Road Racing, and Marty Road Racing was forced into that little mistake which dropped him down to P5 and put Quadeo into that podium spot. But Kodalungu's not giving up on this, despite being passed by Quadeo. He's still keeping him very much honest here in these closing stages of the race. Both of them having got ahead of Marty Road Racing, and they're now battling for that podium spot here. And this could get particularly interesting here as we're coming up towards crunch time here in this race. Marty struggling to shake off John Jig right now. Marty appears to have had a bit of damage, maybe not to the car, but certainly to his confidence, as John Jig is very much keeping himself in the hunt here for this 5th spot. John Jig has had not really the consistent pace over the course of tonight. He's just made a couple of mistakes here and there, and has been consistently dropping off of the leaders. But maybe this has just put a bit between his teeth a little bit now that he can see his target in front of him. He's got Marty literally right there in the distance. He knows that he can, well, not in the distance, but you know what I mean. He's like just up ahead of him, and he knows now that he can, if he really pushes, he could be on for a top 5 here in this race. Gap between Quadeo and Kodalungu 1.8. As always, see a massive slide there from one of the back markers. That's Duke Martin there, as Duke Martin and the Lazy Camel, no, Duke Martin and Windsor, sorry, we're having a bit of a to-do. Windsor squeezes through up into 11th, and Duke Martin has dropped a lot of time there as he had that little skirmish coming out of Sheens. But yeah, that's definitely not what he would have needed in that situation. Pete Bibb continuing to close a little bit on Snooky, but not really. That gap's kind of stayed around 2 seconds for ages now, to be fair. Those two very evenly matched indeed. Cheese Monkey still going at the moment, has got just under 10 seconds here over Xander Flander as he's coming into Paddock Hill Bend now. But I've still got Quadeo running in that final podium spot for the time being. Kodalungu a couple of seconds back in 4th place, as he's got 14 seconds back to Marty running in 5th, and John Jig is just dropped a little bit off of Marty. Marty's kind of got himself back together again after that big mistake that we saw come in through Sheens a few laps ago. He's now got his pace, maybe got the bit between his teeth once again, and is now logging in the laps and putting a bit of a gap between himself and John Jig. Quadeo's got a 3-second gap to Kodalungu, so Kodalungu must have made a mistake on that previous lap. He's now well off of that podium spot and looking like he's going to be consigned to a 4th place here in this race, as Cheese Monkey's now got a gap to Xanafander of over 10 seconds, and he's looking in cruise control for this one. It's going to be another win by the looks of it for Cheese Monkey. It'll be his 2nd in a row back-to-back wins if he can continue what he's doing right now. But still a long way to go, still 10 minutes left in this race, and anything can happen, but it's looking for all the more likely like it's going to be Cheese Monkey's night. It's John Jig still keeping Marty reasonably honest, 1.2 between those two at the moment, coming out onto the back straight here for the 30th time in this race. Just want to say to a big thank you to the guys watching the stream at the moment. If anybody watching this hasn't dropped a like on the video, first of all, what are you doing? But secondly, please drop a like, as it helps us out an enormous amount. It is really appreciated, every single like that we get on these streams. Also subscribe if you haven't already, guys, if you're watching for the first time, as it really does assist us in growing the channel and getting ourselves out there, getting ourselves to a wider audience, to all the guys on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 who play on ACC. If you want to get involved in some sim racing leagues, come over to www.motiveracing.com and join the leagues that we got. GT4s on Wednesday, GT3s on Sunday, and we're putting out a poll pretty soon as well to find out what days people would be available to race theoretically, and obviously we need to figure out what extra categories we're going to have for next season, because the plan is really to run, I think, pretty much everything on ACC. We'll keep an F1 league, but I think we'll be mostly moving our resources to ACC for future seasons. I can see that probably being the way forward at the rate we're going, because obviously having dedicated servers just means it's a much better setup. It's much more practical than having to open up a lobby and having to invite people in, yada yada yada. The dedicated servers on ACC, whilst at first they were a bit confusing and actually quite frustrating, now I can see just how convenient they really are. You know, they're such a good option to have, and they make it so much easier to set up the lobbies and to organise races. All you have to do is just plumb in a load of programming, decide what the weather is, decide how long the sessions are, set a password, and boom, you're ready to roll. So I'll definitely be looking to have a few more ACC leagues here at Motive in the future, so people let us know what you want to see, what categories you want. Obviously we've seen earlier on Scuderia Paul suggested we have a Super Trofeo for the Lambo Super Trofeo. We'll look to try and bring the Porsche Super Cup back next season if we can get some. We'll obviously open up the service to the public and get a few people in, see if they want to jump in and sign up to the leagues that we got. We'll try and run the Porsche Super Cup next season again. We obviously had to stop it early this season, but we'll try and set out the Porsche Cup again, some Super Trofeo, maybe, who knows, maybe some GT4 Sprint Cup, maybe a couple of 30-minute races on a different night to run, as well as this one that we have on a Wednesday night. The traditional one that we have on a Wednesday would also have a couple of shorter races on another night, maybe the same for the GT3s too. That could work, maybe something different. We'll have to see. But right now we've got Windsor still running in 11th place. Duke Martin's really close up onto the back of him. These two battling out over 11th place at this point. And the gap between Cheese Monkey and Xander Thunder now 11 seconds. So Cheese Monkey looking for all the marbles. Like, this is going to be his win here in this race, barring any monumental mess ups here in the final 5 minutes of this one. Watch the battle for 11th place here between Windsor and Duke Martin. Duke Martin trying to get back up onto Windsor if he can. Duke Martin had such a strong start to this race, but it all went horribly wrong pretty much around the pit window. He came out a very long way behind and had to make an extra pit stop a couple of laps after his first pit stop. I'm not sure why. He didn't have a drive through or anything like that, but he came in anyway, and it just dropped him down the field like a stone, showing that when you come into the pits impromptually, it can really mess up your entire race, and it just puts you on the back foot in every way, shape or form. You're best off only to come into the pits when advised to, when specifically advised to, undoubtedly. But Windsor a little bit wide through Paddock Hill, but holding on to that 11th place at the moment. But yeah, it's definitely only come into the pits if you have a strict instruction to specifically do so. But we don't know what the situation was. I mean, it could have been fuel. I think it could have been fuel that meant that Duke Martin had to come into the pits, because I can't imagine why he would have come in otherwise, because there were no drive through. He'd done his pit stop. He literally had the green box next to his name and everything. So, but it's a really unfortunate situation for him, because obviously it's ruined his race completely. He was really up there fighting with John Jig for P6 and could have been in with a shout of closing on Cordero Codlinga and Marty, but unfortunately it wasn't to be tonight. So he's still trying to hassle the back of Windsor to get himself into 11th place if he can, but for the time being Windsor doing a great job of keeping him at bay. Also keeping an eye on the timing board. Marty's gap to John Jig was around a second before. It's now 1.4, so Marty gained a little bit coming through the middle sector on this particular lap, but John Jig's still keeping himself very much in the hunt for that 5th place. As Windsor very wide there through the penultimate corner, and Duke Martin's going to have to run here coming down towards the final corner. He's going to pull out to the outside now. Is he going to be able to make this go around the long way here? No, it looks as though Windsor's going to cover that inside line, hugs the curb, and he's going to park his car on the inside of the track there. Duke Martin just skating around on the exit of the last corner, and over the line they come to complete their 33rd lap of the race. In towards Paddock Hill they come, and Windsor for the time being clinging on by the skin of his teeth, but Duke Martin's really putting him under the cosh here, trying to force him into a mistake if he can, but Windsor giving no quarter, not forcing under the pressure, and Duke Martin's dusted down the exit of Paddock Hill. Oh, he's had a big moment there. And in the process, he's been lapped there by Marty and John Jig as those two come through. Or was he getting out of the way for them? I don't know. Marty may have to do the same in a moment's time. In fact, he's has he? No, he has. John Jig's still behind him. But well, they might have to do the same for Marty here, because obviously Windsor's just in front of Marty, so he may have to do the same for Marty Road Racing. But Duke Martin just lost out quite a bit there, just down to the fact that he had to let those two through, Marty and John Jig. So maybe Windsor's in for a similar handicap here, as we see Marty ever so wide there, coming through that right-hander, but keeping it just about on the track. But John Jig there's gained about a second on Marty, whilst Marty's stuck behind Windsor here. Windsor going ever so wide once again, really pushing those track limits there. But John Jig's now really got himself well within a second here. Duke Martin's definitely been dragged along. Duke Martin's showing how much pace he's got tonight. He's able to compete with these front runners who are a lap ahead of him, despite obviously being in the position that he is. He's really been strong tonight, and he'll be gutted with how this one has developed, as we see something going on there. Did somebody just lag all over the place there? Hopefully not. It looked like it could have been Windsor lagging coming out of the last corner, but he's still on the track. Marty just behind there, with John Jig now in hot pursuit, 8 tenths between those two as they're continuing to battle it out for the final top 5 spot in this race. What a disaster it's been for Marty though tonight. Was running in the final podium spot, was facing heavy pressure from Cordeo a few laps ago. It was about 20 minutes from the end of the race. He had a big slide coming through Sheens and dropped him down to P5 behind Cordeo and Cordalungu. Since then he's been struggling to keep John Jig at bay as John Jig's piled on the pressure, but so far Marty stood up tall to it, and he'll be hoping he can bring this round in at least the top 5 spot here. Damage limitation here for Marty Road Racing. Where's Cheese Monkey at the moment? The race leader's just coming into the final corner, so we're going to have one more lap here at Brands Hatch. One more lap here for round 9 of the GT4s here on ACC, on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 at Motive Racing. What a great drive it has been from Cheese Monkey. As here we go, final lap of the race. The official word from the race director. Xander Vander's just coming up on some traffic here, so he'll be putting a lap on them pretty shortly. That's Pete Bibb there just in front of Xander Vander, you see. Just coming into your shot there in the foreground, coming into Paddock Hill. But John Jig there still just behind Marty, still can't get anything done with him. And these two are still behind Windsor. But Duke Martin's managed to close a little bit on Windsor, but I think that Duke Martin may fall short in that battle for 11th spot, just down to his courtesy that he showed for the leaders there. His politeness may have come to well and truly bite him here, because I don't know, Windsor's just holding firm and not letting the leaders through, and it's showing to be a bit of a reward for him at the moment. But Marty and John Jig still separated by 4 tenths into Druids. JR says hats off to the podium guys tonight. Absolutely, JR. It's not quite over yet though, but it's looking very much like it's going to be Cheese Monkey, Xander Vander and Cordeo on the podium. Cordalungu really dropped off with Cordeo in the final part of the race. Marty, as we said before, had that big incident which dropped him like 20 seconds off of the podium, and since then has really struggled to keep John Jig behind him, but for the time being has managed to do so, as these two have now managed to put a lap on Windsor, I think. Have they? Yeah, they have. So Windsor's actually dropped behind Duke Martin, I believe. Yeah, Duke Martin's got ahead of Windsor up into 11th place. Windsor must have had a big moment there coming through the first sector. Cheese Monkey though is coming up towards the line here, and he's going to take the victory here for round 9 of the season. Cheese Monkey came into this with a 17-point lead in the championship. It's going to be considerably more than that now. I think it's going to be in the realm of 50-60 points in the favour of Cheese Monkey after tonight. Another win for the championship leader and reigning champion. Xander Flander comes over to take a P2. A great drive from Xander Flander, kept himself not too far for Cheese Monkey throughout the course of that one, and some great points there for his championship. Credeo completes the podium, and flash the lights from him in third place. Codlingu's coming out of the final corner, and it's going to be a fourth place finish here for Codlingu. Dropped off at the back of Credeo in the end, but some decent points there in the bag for the man in the number 83 AMG. Marty comes over to take a 5th place. Decent result there for Marty. John Jig follows him home, kept him honest all the way to the end. In the end, only 1 second separating them as they cross the line in 5th and 6th places. Snooky's coming in towards the final half a lap here. In fact, the last couple of corners even. You got King Quinn there's got about half a lap left to go. Pete Bibb, the Lazy Camel, Duke Martin and Windsor have all finished the race. Nilsson's coming over to finish in 13th place. There he is. Snooky though out of the final corner is coming up towards the line. 7th place here. Good points there for Snooky. I'm sure he won't be too upset with that. He'll be pretty happy, I'm sure, as he crosses the line there. Flash the lights from Snooky. Much better race tonight than what we saw at Spa last week, where he got taken out on the first lap. He'll be, I'm sure, relieved to have first stayed the distance and got himself to the end, but doubly so for getting such great points in the bag. King Quinn there coming out of the final corner is going to take an 8th place here to complete the race. And that is all she wrote for tonight's GT4 action here on the Motive Racing YouTube channel here on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Big thank you to everybody who joined us live on the stream, to JR, to Paul, to Kieran, to Butcher, to Rich, and obviously to Ratched earlier in the stream, as well as Yeehaw. Big thank you to all of you guys for chiming in tonight and keeping us entertained throughout the stream. 12 likes on the stream. Please drop a like on the video, guys. Let's get this video to 15 likes if we can. Thanks, Rich. Yep, see you later, mate. Scuderia Paul says, good racing all. Congrats, Cheese Monkey, on a dominant win. Yep, 100%. What a drive he put in tonight. Xanafan and Credeo, decent podium finishes from them. JR says, great job on the comments. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Auto Butcher says, well done to all in difficult conditions. Yeah, they really did step up to the plate tonight, all these drivers, and 13 of the 14 drivers that started finishing the race. That is nothing to be sniffed at when you consider the weather out there tonight. So fair play to everybody here in this GT4 series. As we said before, drop a like, show your appreciation for the drivers tonight, for the way that they have braved the elements and done a fantastic job. Congratulations to Cheese Monkey on the win, Xanafan 2nd, Credeo 3rd. We'll see you in the next one, guys. We'll join us on join us, well, I'll be live in a moment's time for Excel's F1 League, but if you're more of an ACC fan, then join us on Sunday night for the GT3s. We'll be live from 6 PM GMT, that's UK time. We're on GMT now, not BST, back to the old darkness part of the year. Yeah, join us then, 6 PM. Also join us on Friday for, hopefully we'll have the Motive F1 League back on at 6:45 on Friday, and we'll have some touring car action hopefully on Project Cars 2 after that, all being well. But yeah, thanks everybody, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.